Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Daily Double. Today we're doing Masechus Eiruvin, Perek Dalid. We're actually finishing Perek Dalid. Mishnah is Yud and Yud Aleph. Mishnah Yud says, Mishiyatza leilech be'ir shema arvin ba, v'hechziru chavero. He wanted to go. They sent him out. Go put an Eruv Tchumen at the border of our city, 2,000 hours away from the city. And then his friend said, wait a second. He started to go. He started going. He left the city limits. And he was going to the 2,000 hours away from the city. And his friend called him back. And he said, don't go. It's too cold, it's too hot. So, hu muter leilech? The person himself, the shliach, who was going to put the bread there, he could actually use the area 20. No, he didn't deposit it there at the end of 2,000 amos. He could actually use it like it was there and walk 4,000 amos. And even though he was a shliach for all the people in the city, they can't use it. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, right, the ikar way of being ma'ariv is with your reglayim. So he was machzeh b'derech. The shliach was machzeh b'derech. You can't use the bread because the bread has to physically be there. But he was ikar Eiruvin Tchumen is beraglav according to Yehuda, where you are, where your body is. So once you start hichzek b'derech, it's like you're already there. So therefore, you could use it, but shluch shalom kamosu doesn't mean you're actually doing. You're just acting to help them out. You're not actually a yad, a richta, right? We just talked about shlichus. You're not actually a representative of the entire city. So therefore, they weren't muchsak with there. They didn't start journeying. So therefore, they can only use their city. They don't have the extra 2,000 amos. Rabbi Meir though holds that the main type of eruv tchumen is with bread, and they sent him originally with bread, right? So the problem over here is that he's stuck because he went with bread, right? He's meshupach Rabbi Meir, right? Maybe this person, right, is considered like it because they called him back. So maybe it's considered like he went with the bread, but the bread has to be 2,000 amos away, so therefore you can't use the bread. Or do we say that he's like an ani, he's like a poor person because they called him back, and Rabbi Meir agrees like a poor person, if someone's on the derech, he could be ma'ariv baraglav. So it would work. So therefore, Chamar Gamal, he's not sure, and therefore this person, I'm explaining the way Rav Avadia Bar Tanura explains, this person, this shliach, he's stuck, right? He can only be, it's like we're not sure if the Eiruvin Tchumen was deposited at the end of 2,000 amos, or it wasn't. So he can only be in his city, and only 2,000 amos in one direction. He can't walk 2,000 amos in the other direction. And like we said, it's a safek d'oraisa l'chumra, and we're machmir in both directions. According to Rabbi Tanura, it's only a chumrah on the shliach. I'm going to talk about Iyam Mitzion, whether I think it's also, according to Rabbi Meir, it's also a chamar gamal on the people in the city. I'll tell you why in Iyam Mitzion. Yidal, if mishgatz chutz l'tchum, let's say someone, you're not allowed to leave your tchum on Shabbos. You left the tchum. Afilo ama achas lo yikones. Tanakama holds you can't go back in. Why? Even though technically when you leave your tchum, you have dalet amos, and dalet amos goes into the tchum, and once you're in the tchum, you can go back to your city. He holds that we don't say havlas tchumen lav milzahi, right? The fact that your 4 amos goes into the cities, you can't mix that. You can't mix tchumen together. Your tchum is 4 amos, so even if it goes into the city limits, you can't mix it and get the rights of the tchum of the city. Lezer Omer Shtayim Yikanesh Shalosh Lo Yikanesh. Lezer says that if it's 2 or less, right? So he holds when a person has 4 amos, he left his tchum, he only has 4 amos. And according to Belezer, he's machmir in the chachamim. You don't have 4 amos to each side, you only have 2 amos to each side of you. But he holds that if it's 2 amos or less, once you have 2 amos and the tchum, you only left 2 amos, so your tchum will reach the end of the city limits. And therefore, he holds havlas tchum is considered significant. The fact that you could your tchum is joined to the tchum of the city, so therefore you can walk the entire city. But if it's shalosh, you can't go in. Mishech shechutz, we paskin like the Tanakama. Once you leave, you only have 4 amos, you can't come back in. Mishech shechutz l'tchum, afilo ama acha. So let's say someone was trying to get into the city limits before Shabbos, and he planned on being there. But by the time Shkias Achama happened, he found himself outside. He wasn't able to get in. Afilo ama achas, even 1 ama, right? Shkias Achama sets in ben hashmashos. Lo yikanes, he can't go back in, right? Because he's considered outside. Now, normally we learn that if you're outside the city, you have 2,000 amos. However, since his das was to be inside the city and he unsuccessfully did not get into the city, so therefore he stuck Dalit Amos. When he paskin have lost Tchum and Lav Mil, so you can't go into the city. Rishon Omer, I feel Amos even 15 Amos you could go back and Shem Shochos Mamatzines Amidas Meat Toin. He says, Rosh Shimon says that 2,000 Amos measured that people measure your Tchum of your city is Lav Davka. They don't. They're machmer. People are machmer, and they make the Tchum, 15 or more Amos. Let's say 15 amos inward, right? They're measuring, the Tchum is really at 1,985 feet amos from the city. So therefore, technically, in a case where you're stuck like this, Shasa Sorach, which actually with Derek, here it's not so bad because even Rabbi Shimon agrees if you were in the Tchum and you left, that's your fault. But here, he's trying to get into the city, so it's not his fault. He's an onus over here, so therefore we rely on the fact that probably in most cases people are machmer the Tchum and they leave over 15 amos that they don't allow you to come in. So therefore you're technically within the Tchum. We can assume in this case of Suffolk you're in the Tchum and you can walk into the city. But if more than 15 amos, we don't assume people are not machmer in measuring the Tchum more than 15 amos. We don't paskin the Rebbe Shimon. We paskin that people are medactic and do carefully measure 2,000 amos. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Iyam Mitzvah, where I discuss Mishnah Yud and the Shita of Rebbe Meir.